Hey folks, I am going to run a quick video here just to determine what really drives compressor amp draw on a HVAC split system. There is discussion of whether or not it's a compression ratio. There's also discussion of whether or not it is high discharge pressure or low evaporator pressure, just what factors in to the actual amp draw that your compressor uses during operation, whether it's under high load or low load. So I've got a few probes set up here. I've got my field piece, iPad. You can see the return is 75, supply 74. There's no restriction on the evaporator as of yet, which is the primary way that I'm going to test this in conjunction with simulating a freeze up, which inhibits most of the airflow. Down here you can see that we've got a discharge pressure of 311 psi G, and we've got a suction of 133.6 G, which is approximately 2-to-1 compression ratio. I've also got my amp meter out there. It's pulling 8.32 amps, and the incoming voltage is 237.6 volts. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is basically take these panels here, and I'm going to inhibit the airflow by blocking off, quite honestly, just the filter return. And this is not a recommended action by anybody other than a professional. Do not try this at home. Do not tell your mother-in-law about this. So we're going to watch the amperage as the load has been removed from the evaporator effectively. We're just going to see what this does. I'm also going to switch over here to see what we're doing with our pressures. And so now we see that we have a much lower suction pressure as there is no load being brought to it. Also, we are almost at a 3-to-1 compression ratio with our liquid pressure at 294. We can see that everything is dropping primarily because we are not bringing any more BTUs of heat back to the compressor for completing the compression cycle. Let's switch back over here and see what our electrical is doing. So we are still at 8.26, so we have not moved much on the amperage. Back over here on our temperatures and our pressures, I'm going to scroll down on this so we can see what our subcooling is. Let me select our refrigerant type, which is 410 alpha. You can see that our actual superheat out at the heat pump currently is 2.7, actual subcooling 1.3. We are still at 8.26. So there has been little movement as we have removed load, little movement on our amp draw. This is a piston system, and it's a 3-ton heat pump. For you super nerds out there, it is an Amana ASX 160371, I believe it is. And then we have just a standard ARUF air handler. And I have blocked off just the return intake with a couple pieces of plastic signage. So down here we are not experiencing any freeze up on the coil yet. I'm kind of curious to see how long that will take. Our actual suction temperature is 30.6. go back over here to see what our electrical is doing. I don't think it's changed much. 8.26. I am curious to see what would happen if this was a TXV system and as that expansion valve closed down further and further. However, I don't think there would be much change or movement in the amp draw. Maybe dropping slightly. Well, I think my tool shut off. Alright, well now we're down to 7.9, so we are dropping a little bit as the load has been removed. We're down to evaporator, or the suction temperature down there is at 24. We are experiencing freezing on the suction line. Vapor saturation at 20.9, and yeah, we're turning it into an ice maker here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really want to freeze up my entire evaporator, nor do I want to flood my compressor, even though it does have a suction accumulator. So I'm going to go ahead and remove some of let some of the air back in. And all I'm really going to care about is what this electrical data does as I pull these panels off. So that's going up incrementally. Suction pressure is coming up. Liquid pressure is coming up. That little frost bubble is gone off there. Go back to electrical. 7.85. The subcooling's a little bit low. I'll check that later. Let things stabilize here a little bit. There was quite a bit of refrigerant, liquid refrigerant inside the evaporator, so it's going to take a few minutes for it to clear out. We do have a increase happening on the current as the load comes on. And just for reference, that meter is connected to the contactor and the common wire off the compressor. So if you remember, our starting amp draw was about 8.23, 8.22, somewhere in there. So, you know, we're just a few points of an amp off. Suction pressure went all the way down to 84. Liquid pressure, I didn't pay attention to that, but you weren't good. I will do a follow-up video because I'm actually kind of curious on what the amp draw will do when we soak the condenser down and take all the load off the condenser. But I have a feeling, a premonition, that our results are going to be similar. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.